Hello, girly pops. My name is Jasmine Neely, and I am the host of the Imperfect Cheerleader podcast. Thank y'all so much for joining in. I'm doing a little different background. You see my little vision board back there. You see, I got one from like 2023, I think, and then two for this year. So you can see what I want to happen in my life. So we're gonna talk about. We're still in this DCC episode rollout. We're talking about episode 4 today, okay? Got my little notes from when I watched it. And episode 4 starts out by them telling Dayton that she didn't make the cut. And I kind of had wished that they showed Dayton telling her mom and getting her mom's reaction to hearing it from Dayton, or hearing whether or not Kelly and Judy actually did reach out to them, because that was a big thing. She wanted Kelly and Judy to tell her. She as a friend, she wanted that to happen. So I kind of wish they would have shown that, or we would have heard a little bit more from Dayton's mom on that. But yeah, Dayton got cut, and I kind of could see it happen just from her storyline in the show, the story arc of her character, and just how she was portrayed on the show. So it is unfortunate for her, but I think that they made the best decision there. But I hope that Dayton comes back stronger next year, if it's something that she wants to do. But it does get emotional on the side of the coaches, because you do grow a bond with these women, and they grew a bond with Dayton because they've known her whole life. And they said, like, you got to put your heart aside and do the job that was given to you. And then that's when Kelly is like, yeah, but at what cost? At what cost is hurting someone, our heartbreak? So, but Judy's right. Like, you got to put your heart aside in those moments, and you got to do what's best for the organization, do what's best for the team. And you can still love somebody, but tell them what needs to be said. And being in that position where this is so close to your heart can be very hard. But I will say, a lot of times in life that I've learned so far is that the hard decision is sometimes the most obvious one. Like, you may be thinking that you need to do something, and you've been sitting on it for a while, and you're thinking, okay, should I do this? And you have this thought in your head, like, I need to be doing this. But sometimes you think, like, oh, it's not, I need to think on it, I need to sleep on it. But, like, at the back of your mind, you're like, I need to do this. It's the most obvious decision to make, and it just needs to happen. It's gonna suck, but it's the best decision, and it's the most obvious decision. So, I think Kelly actually did reach out to Shelly, Dayton's mom, to see if she was okay. Yeah, I think she did mention that in this episode. And she'd mentioned that they still do have scar tissue with Victoria and her mom. Victoria is the woman that lives in New York and is pursuing her dream of becoming a Rockette. So I would love to see that storyline, that story arc, just a little bit more. And maybe even seeing a conversation between those two would have been great to see. But I get it, you got to get back to the business with the girls on the team, so I get that. But what's great, and something that I really did agree with Kelly, is that Dayton should find more passions outside of DCC, because that's not the only world that there is. I tell women that I train all the time to do that if they just got cut from a team but they want to come back. Find something else that you're passionate about and come back with that same passion for the team, but focus somewhere else. You have to put your focus somewhere else and find joy in something else that you're not trying to like make a team, you just enjoy doing, like a hobby. And that's going to refocus your mind, your focus. It's going to tell you, okay, I'm doing this hobby that I really enjoy. Should I stick with doing this hobby? Or should I stick with doing this hobby and try to do DCC next year? Like, it's going to give you a lot of clarity once you find something that you enjoy outside of pro dance. All right. And things will just immediately fall into place. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Like, if you are compassionate about something else, that also leaves you with a great story to tell when you do audition for the next time. So I think that finding another hobby can also be an opportunity for you to have a talent that you showcase if that's part of your audition process. If there's a hobby that you have and that makes you stand out, people on these teams, coaches, directors, and managers of pro dance teams, they like to see a well-rounded dancer, someone that's has other interests, you know, because that also is good for showcasing the team and social media and just showing the different personalities that are on the team. So I think that can make you stand out, honestly. And it's just great for the team. Okay, now we're going to get into the points. They announced that Shandi and Jada would be the points this year, and I love it. I love to see Black Girl Magic. I also like that they are completely different. You know, Jada is a little bit more outspoken, and Shandi is a little bit quieter. But I know that they both look great as points, and it's interesting that they are both women of color as points as well, and they're leading this team. So I think that's amazing to see. I also think, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm going to do a separate episode about it, but like privileges or winning things as part of a team, how that makes the team feel in general. The whole thing about ranking, like the points and, you know, getting awards at the end of the game and stuff like that. Sometimes it's not the best for the team, but something as a point, as a DCC, is super iconic, and I understand why they do it, because it's something they've done all the time, and it creates conversation and gives the girls popularity, so I get that. But this kind of ranking, this kind of like Dance Moms type of rank style or what have you, I think can be sometimes problematic. We'll just say that and leave it at that. I also love that Jada says that she's not changing who she is just because she's in a certain position. And you go, girl. It's a reminder that you can do it differently and still be an effective leader. You can be true to who you are and not have to be, like she said, the yes ma'am girl. Because when you're put in that position, you're typically seen as being the yes ma'am, no ma'am type of girl. And she said she's not changing who she is. And I think that makes her a fearless leader, and I think that's why she's so effective as a leader. And then they get to like this group leaders brunch where they're talking about pay. And I also want to point out in this conversation that Megan, who is the only white group leader at that time, she makes it a point to say that Shandi and Jada are the two women of color that are leading this as the points. And I really think it's interesting that she said that, because she is the only Caucasian woman as the group leader, and it's good to see other people that are not of color big up women of color. It's good to see like allies, you know. I think that's super important for the world to see, because it shows that it's okay to, you know, be different, but also stand up for what you think is right and champion it, really. So I think I really like that she said that. And she also made a really good point about the Dallas Cowboys being a multi-billion-dollar company, and a lot of them did go around and kind of say, you know, I really agree that we shouldn't sign contracts this year, and that, or maybe we should. And Shandi believing that she doesn't want to forfeit and fight for the team in that way. And that's totally okay for her to do that. It's not for everyone to do. And if you're okay with being in that position, then you stand your ground in that position. I like that she's not just following the crowd because everybody else is. I think that she is a rule follower, like her mother said, but nothing's wrong with that. She wants to be secure and safe. She likes things as they are. That's cool. If you like things as they are, why fight for something, you know? So I feel like she did end up like giving into the reason why they were asking for better pay, and I think eventually she did kind of think about that, unless she was the one person who didn't, who turned in her contract and everybody else didn't. They also talk about Shandi's story and how her father left her at a very young age, that she's adopted, and that she assumed the role of being a parent really, really young. She's one of those people that's really strong and takes on a lot, and you never know because she does hide it so well. But she tries to be perfect, and I understand that. And she pushes things down. She doesn't really show her emotions that much. But perhaps she is so quiet because if she is vulnerable, then it will make her even look weaker. And I totally get that. Having to find ways to show your strengths as a quiet person can sometimes be a challenge. And when you do show signs of weakness, it's like, oh, I knew she was going to do that. Like, because she's so quiet, I knew that this was going to happen. So it's like you try to be strong because you already are that quiet personality, and you don't want to be seen as weak. And this is where they get into the like end of training camp. They're doing a scene with Kelly from Weehawken. She is writing down every move in her notebook, and she is in it. She is in it to win it, to make this team. And she says that every move, where her arms are, what she's doing, is written in a book. Now, that works for her. I don't know that I could do that because I'm more of a visual person instead of like reading something. But if it works for her, that works for her. And you gotta do what works for you. Like, if you need to write every move down, then that's you. It's not for me. So I do remember like writing lists down of like sidelines that I had to remember. They call them tags. And she said they had like 31 of them. So I understand maybe writing down notes about where certain clean is, or something that you talked about. So you want to remember that and going over that. But every single move written down, whew, I don't know if I understood her right, but that sounds like a little overboard. I do want to talk about tags for a little bit because I think it's interesting how different leaders call them based on the slow tempo or the fast tempo, and you have to learn how to pick up on both. So if there's a music that's playing, you should be able to dance to that music with a certain tag. And I had to do that during my NFL days. I had to dance to music, random songs that would come on, but like I would have an 8 count that I would already know in my head, and like we would just do it. And either if I was a captain, I would lead it, or whoever line I was on, they would do it. And so that's definitely a skill to have. And if you need to practice doing that right now, you need to practice listening to certain beats in the music, fast songs and slow songs, thinking of a dance that you already know and putting that dance to that music. See how you react to like just saying a 5, 6, 7, 8 and you just do something to the music. I think that's important for a pro dancer to do. I think Ava says something like, yeah, I'm constantly running dances in my head. Whenever I wake up, whenever I go to sleep, I'm dreaming about dancing. When you're in that tryout mode, you are, and I did this recently when I auditioned for Honeybees. There was one night, I don't remember really sleeping much. I remember the last thing I did was do a dance, and I did a dance in my head. And then I went to sleep, and it felt like I was doing the dance all throughout the night. Like in my head, I probably was moving while I was sleeping. And then I remember waking up, and as soon as I got out the bed, I did the dance. It was like in my head, it was in my body, just, it wouldn't escape. And It was constant, and I couldn't get it out because I wanted it that bad. So I think that's normal, honestly. You're gonna have that song on repeat for a couple of days, and until you get through it, then yeah, you're gonna be consumed by that. Then they kind of talk about like the rookies and who else they're gonna cut, and they kind of do like little snippets of each of the rookie candidates. And you get Abby, who is a amazing dancer, but she has really picture perfect movements. Like she can move and you take a picture and it looks amazing. Cooper, they were saying that she looks rigid, and then Maddie K's eyes were so brown and beautiful on the screen. So those are the type of things that I recognized during that episode. And then they were giving feedback to one of the women, and they were saying like, you can't blend, but I thought the whole point of dancing is to be uniform and to blend in. But to a certain extent, right? A certain extent. I get it, but you have to blend into the team to understand the style. But you also have to invite your own personal style into that team, into the movements, so that you stand out, right? They're like, oh, this girl blends in. They were saying that about Maddie. They're saying like, oh, she blends in, but I don't know. At this point in the process, it seems like they're just giving advice, like they're just giving excuses just to make up excuses sometimes, because everybody at that point should have been on that team. Like Jenna, she was being the last cut, but being the last cut, and I want you to really listen when I say this, can be a good thing, because it's like being first to lose, right? You're so close, and it sucks for the person being cut, but if you transition the way you think about it, you're so close, and it's good to think that, because coming back next year, she's likely to be the first to make it, right? Because she was that close to touching her dream. She's the first to lose, but that next year, the first to win, if that makes sense. Because they know her, she was the last to be cut, so she made it through that whole training camp for a reason, and they were debating between her and another woman. So yeah, they had a sit down with her that I thought was an interesting conversation, and Kelly said that she didn't want to put unnecessary pressure on her. And I get that, because being in that position at the last moment, you can feel like, if you're having those conversations, you're always like, what else can I do? Is there anything else that I can do? And I think Kelly saying that she doesn't want to put unnecessary pressure on her is really important. So I was also thinking about this, like, they probably don't get a stipend to stay there for a whole month, but they should. If they're being brought into this training camp and they're not being paid to stay there that long and figure out how to live, that's a huge commitment without being paid. Especially as a young woman that might be right out of college, that doesn't have a job. If they don't get a stipend, then they should. I don't know that they've talked about that. So, yeah. And I think a lot of this episode was the Jenna versus Maddie K. I wrote a note that said the end was so dramatic. And I think it's because they were showing whoever they cut, their hands and their feet, like the last girl they cut. But that makes you want to watch the next episode. So I catch your drift, Netflix. I get what you did there. Okay. That was episode 4. I hope you guys go watch it if you haven't already and see all these things I'm talking about. Sorry for the spoilers if you haven't seen it. But thanks for tuning in. And I'm going to be back with some more fire interviews. I got Miss South Carolina coming up. And I have 2 besties who are in the NASCAR world that are coming up on my podcast. So stick around, stay tuned. If you really love listening to my podcast or watching me on YouTube through videos, most of these videos I do I do video now. And so if you're listening on Spotify, you can go over to my YouTube The Professional Cheerleader, and watch me if you want to see my beautiful face, if you're not watching already. And subscribe to my YouTube channel where I post all the videos, and I post other types of videos as well, but mostly my podcast videos. So make sure you go over there if you want a little more in-person face action, okay? Thank y'all, and I'll see you on another episode of The Imperfect Cheerleader. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Imperfect Cheerleader podcast. Taking the time to listen while you're busy with all of life's responsibilities means the world to me. If you enjoyed this episode, here are a few ways you can support ICP. Number 1, hit the subscribe button so you always get newly released episodes and never miss them. Number 2, take a screenshot of the episode you listened to and tag at the Professional Cheerleader on Instagram. We love to repost your tags and shout you out in our stories. Number 3, write a review. This is the best way to show your support for the podcast and helps us bring on even better guests, interviews, and topics. I hope you have a wonderful day, morning, or night, wherever you may be, and are continuing to work towards your goals of becoming a professional cheerleader, dancer, or just someone who loves to move. I'll see you later on another episode of the Imperfect Cheerleader podcast. Toodles for now.